This is section 2.5, and we're going to be working with absolute value. So let's first look at the absolute value function here. We have x values, and this is the absolute value of x, which would be your y. And you note that there are no negative values over here. So you end up with a v, because if you're a -2, you're up at +2. If you're a +2, you're up at +2. So you get a V-shaped graph. The domain is all real numbers. The range is y is greater than or equal to 0. So if we were going to solve these, we're going to be doing them with a calculator. So in your calculator, you would go to y1 and you would put the absolute value of 1 minus 2x. And then we're going to always have it be equal to 0. So we'll have brought this 3 over. So you can see that here. And so then you have a +3. y2 is always going to be 0. Where do you get the absolute value bars? You hit math, go over to number, and the first option is ABS, which gives you the bars. So in this one, because you're basically trying to find out where does it hit the x-axis. Well, this one does not hit the x-axis at all. There's no solution. We could actually know that anyway, because you're saying the absolute value of this is equal to a negative number, and we know that can't be true. Let's look down to the next one. So absolute value of 3/4 x minus 6 equals 15. So the first thing is to bring the 15 to the other side, and we have here, and we've got y2 to be 0. And if you don't want to deal with the fraction and it turns into a nice decimal, like 3/4 is 0.75, you could use that. So we do that and we get a picture. Now, when you first do it, you may not see where it crosses. You may have to change the window, because a typical window is going to end at 10 and 10. So you may have to go in and change your x-min, change your x-max till you can see where it crosses. Once you can see it, then you'll do second calc intersection and find where it intersects. Let's do that on the calculator right now. So I've brought my calculator up and I have put that in like we talked about. And I'm going to do a zoom 6, which is just your standard window, because I don't know what this one was on, but that'll show you that we can't see either side of here where it's hitting the x. So if I go into the window and I change the x-min to -20, and I would most likely try the x-max at 20 and see if that works. I would hit graph. So I've got this side. I still can't see this side. So we go back in and change the x-max to 30. It's just, you have to figure that out. You have to, it's like trial and error. So we do graph. So now I can see those. So now we'll do second calc intersect, and you're just going to hit enter 3 times. 1, 2, 3. It should pop to one of your intercepts. So x equals -12 is 1. You should write that down. Then we'll do the other one, but there's one little difference. We'll do second calc 5. Before we hit enter 3 times, we need to get over here on this side. So we're going to use our right arrow. We're going to make our cursor go around till you see it again on the other side. Doesn't have to be up there close. Just right there is fine, as long as it has gone past the point of the V. Now enter 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And we're there at 28. So x equals 12 and x equals 28 work for this absolute value equation. All right, let me put that down. And so those are your solutions, not in parentheses. That's your answers, either -12 or 28. Now, if we have absolute value inequalities, we're going to do very much the same thing. Let's look at this one. We have less than or equal to 6. We still want it to be less than or equal to 0. So if we move the 6 over, we've got absolute value of 2x minus 5 minus 6, and we've got a 0. So we're solving it as an equation first. So don't put in your inequality symbols, but you do need to know what those are telling you. Those are telling you if you had to graph it, you'd use closed circles on the intercepts. You will use brackets in your answer, and you're going to look for below the x-axis because it's less than 0. All right, so when we put this in and graph it, we get this graph. Then you want to draw that on your paper and just have a sketch. You want to make the intercepts dark circles. Now on your calculator, do the second calc 5, intersect, find these two numbers, and then you write them in. X is negative 0.5, X is 5.5. But because it's an inequality, it's a whole region. And so we're going to shade or highlight the part under the x-axis. So our answer, and it could be two different ways that they might ask you, from negative 0.5 to 5.5, all in brackets, that's interval notation, or inequality, x falls between those two, so you have less than or equal to on both the sides. So we're going to use our calculator to do both the equations and the inequalities. Let's go look at our problem set. All right, number 1, the absolute value of x greater than 12. So again, I went to the calculator and I put it in like that. Remember, I moved the 12 to the other side, so it became minus 12, and then I have 0 on the right. I sketched it, so this is what I got when I graphed. I found these two numbers. It was negative 12 and positive 12, and I know that it's greater than, so it's going to be up here. All right. Okay, so I had full circles there, and I don't think I was even thinking, but they should be open circles. That tells you we're going to have parentheses, and the greater than 0 right here means you're going to have these two pieces. So this is from negative infinity up to negative 12, u 12 to infinity. And so this is your solution for that. And you'll choose A and put that there. Okay. All right, number 2. Graph the absolute value, y equals the absolute value of x plus 8 by hand. So we can do that in the calculator because we've been doing that. And you would find that this is your graph. The x-intercept is going to be at negative 8, 0. Where is it increasing? It's increasing from negative 8 to infinity. Where is it decreasing? It's decreasing from negative infinity to negative 8. Okay. Number 3. The graph of y equals f of x is shown. Use the graph to complete the parts. So, identify any x-intercepts or y-intercepts. So, there's two x-intercepts, negative 1 and 5. So, negative 1, 0 and 5, 0 with a comma between the two parentheses. The y-intercept appears to be at 0, negative 1. Determine the x values for where f of x is greater than 0, less than 0, or equal to 0. That means where is it above the x-axis, where is it below, and where do you hit the x-axis. So a greater than would be from negative infinity up to negative 1. That's that piece. And then from 5 to infinity. So if we think about that, put some highlight. So we're here and we're here. That's the increase. Or that's the not the increase, but that's where it's greater than 0. Now, where is it less than 0? That's here from negative 1 over to 5. Negative 1, so this piece here. All right. And then where is it equal to 0? Where is it equal to 0? The x values, so that's at negative 1 and at 5. And that's just two separate numbers, no parentheses. How do the x-intercepts relate to the solution? the x-intercepts are the values that make f of x equal 0. It's where they hit the x-axis. Where is f increasing? Where is it decreasing? So let's look. It changes direction here. So it is decreasing from here to here. It's increasing from here to here. And that x value there is 2. So from from 2 to infinity, it's increasing. From negative infinity to 2, it's decreasing. Is the function ever positive and decreasing on the same interval? Positive and decreasing. Yes, here is positive and it's decreasing. Whoops. From negative infinity to negative 1. Give the domain and range. So if we look back at our graph, the domain's going to be all reals, negative infinity to positive infinity, because any x will work. The range, it appears, is negative 1, 2, 3. Looks like negative 3. So from negative 3 up to infinity. So that's a lot on that one graph. All right, number 4, we have the same kind of question. What are the x-intercepts? And you'll be able to enlarge this and see it a little better on yours, but they're at negative 1, 0 and 1, 0. The y-intercept is at 0, 4. The x values where it's greater than, the x values where it's greater than 0 from negative 1 to 1. Where it's less than 0 is negative infinity up to 1, up to negative 1, and from 1 to infinity on this side. Where is it equal to 0? Again, that's negative 1 and 1. And the x-intercepts are the values that make it equal to 0. Where is it increasing? It is increasing from negative infinity up to 0, because x is 0 when that changes direction. And it's decreasing 0 to infinity. Any place where it's positive and decreasing? It is positive and decreasing right there. So that was from 0 to 1. And again, domain and range. Domain is here. Range is negative infinity up to 4. All right, this one we'll do on the calculator. Okay, so we could put it in, I show you how to do that, but what should we notice? We're saying the absolute value of something is equal to a negative number. That's not a possibility. So there is no solution, and you really don't have to do this if you'll just recognize that. Number 6, same idea. We're going to move that 8 over. So we got y1 equals the absolute value of 2x plus 2 minus 8. And I don't think we need that equals. So I got rid of that equals. So we have this in y1, this in y2. We're going to follow that same idea of getting a picture and finding the solutions. Remember, it's second calc 5, enter, enter, enter. We're not doing shading. We're not doing intervals. This is an equation, so we'll find the x-intercepts to get that. We'll do the same thing with number 7. This one's already in the correct form. Just put that in y1, y2 to be 0. Find your x-intercepts, and it does say type an integer or a fraction. It does not want a decimal. Remember that on your calculator, if you... let me get out of that. Say I had, let's see. Let me just put something easy. I put 0.5 there. But I know that I'm supposed to have it in fraction. And if I didn't know that it was 1/2, if I hit math and the first option's fraction, hit enter, that's turning that into a fraction, and you will get that. So if you get something here that's a decimal, which you probably will, just do math fraction and you will get the 11 over 5. And the other one is -1. Number 8, this is an inequality. So we've had some equations, we've got an inequality. We're going to put y, let me put the y1 in here. Okay, so I've got that in there. Now, what does this tell us? Less than or equal says we're going to have brackets, and if it's less than, it's going to be below x. If it's greater than, it's going to be above x. So we are looking for below the x-axis. When we do this graph, we get this picture, and because we're looking for below, we need this blue area right here. So you do find the x-intercepts. That one's going to be your -6/5. This is going to be 2. And it is between those two numbers. It says use interval notation. That means not the inequality thing. We want brackets on both ends because it's less than or equal -6/5 to 2. Number 9. Now number 9, again, you don't have to go through the graph because it's saying this thing is less than or equal to -1. And it's above completely. But you could do a graph and see it, but it's not touching anywhere down here. So there is no solution where this is below -1. Okay. Number 10. All right, we've got another inequality. We're going to put it in. Let me get that one up there as well. Okay, so this is what's going in the calculator. We're going to get this graph. We'll find those two x values, and those should be actually open circles. Okay, so I fixed that. And so we're saying, where is this above the x-axis? Well, it's this piece, and then it's this piece. So -infinity up to 1, u, 2 to infinity. And we know that we're using parentheses because it does not have an equals under it. And I think that's the last. We have 10 questions on absolute value, both equations and inequalities, and that should finish us up.